folks. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you're all very well. Delighted to welcome you all to our webinar this morning. And you're very welcome, whether you're watching this morning, whether you're watching live on Zoom, or whether you're going to be watching this on a recorded playback, or indeed listening into our podcast. You're very welcome. My name is Rob McGee. I'm the CEO here at Ingenio. We've built two businesses that are very specifically and nichely serving the tech and software industry. One is a recruiter, a 6-year-old recruitment business, and the other is an e-learning business called Ingenio Learning. That's what we're going to be talking to you today. Ingenio Learning, we built this e-learning course and platform last year specifically to help people who want to get hired, and where this is really helpful and impacting is specifically for people who want to get hired by technology, software, or indeed SaaS organizations. For the month of April, as we do every month, we run a kind of a key topic. And the topic for April is writing a winning CV. And just, I guess, to give you a bit of a brief insight and a look back, and then, in terms of what we're talking about today, and then a look ahead. So the couple of sessions that we've done already, we're really getting you to basically build a very strong foundation around your CV. Today, we're going to be talking about common mistakes to avoid, and we see them in their hundreds every single day. So I think we're probably very well placed to be able to give you some pointers around maybe not making some of those mistakes. And next week, I see next week as being a very strong and important session, which is making sure that the right person actually gets to read your CV or resume. But more on that one next week. I want to just recap really quickly on something that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. And that is when you sit down to write your CV, whether that's for the first time or when you're trying to update it or improve it, there is an exercise that we have developed effectively ourselves, and it's called the Ingenio Profile Grid. And this is an absolutely must-do exercise for anyone who is in that space right now, or in that mindset, or in that intent. We run a whole section, one whole module on the Ingenio Profile Grid as an exercise, and it's really interesting. I met a candidate yesterday who had completed this exercise over the course of the weekend. A senior guy, mid-30s, sales is his kind of profession, and as he said to me, he was like, "Rob, look, I really thought I was very clear in terms of what I wanted. And actually, having completed this exercise, there's a number of things that are far more important to me than, let's say, for example, what I make or what I earn, or maybe what comes with my package." And that's really important based on maybe the type of business that you want to work for. It's very important in terms of the role that you want to go and do, and really important around trying to give some insight around the type of team that you want to work in, both in terms of the people that you work up to, that your peers, and then maybe people that will sit below you in an org structure. So this is a really fundamental and absolutely important, like critically important piece of groundwork that you need to go and do. So if you haven't tuned into that, I would definitely tune into that one. And as I said to you, there's a whole module on our course alone on the Ingenio Profile Grid. What we're talking about today is mistakes, and we're talking about mistakes that people make and avoid, that we want to help you avoid. One of the really important pieces for us is educating people who are in the hiring process around the process that they exist in and fit in. And there's a piece of software out there that is becoming very common, that is being used by organizations, and it's called ATS, Applicant Tracking Software. It is typically used by medium to large sized organizations definitely all large organizations are using ATS. And basically what ATS is it's a piece of software that effectively reads, reviews, scans, and ranks applications. Okay, so effectively call it a robot. Really, really productive piece of software that organizations use. It is non-discriminatory, so really very good in terms of, I guess, its effects and its outputs and outcomes to an organization. And basically what an ATS does is it takes the job description. So it takes the criteria that have been set out by the hiring manager or the team or the HR team or whatever the case may be, and it reads and reviews and scores the applicants against the job description. And based on what's in your CV, it then scores or ranks you firstly, and it then passes or fails you. So it's really, really important that you understand, if you're working into or trying to apply to an organization that uses ATS, it's really, really important that you've got that kind of nailed. And the second thing is trying to understand how you can best prepare yourself to deal and combat with that. Okay. How do you get your CV ready to become ATS enabled or ATS ready? So the first thing, really, really importantly, is start with your work experience and work reverse chronological. So basically start with what you're doing today, because that's effectively the way the sequence reads. So you start with what you're doing today and you work downwards, or work backwards from a timing perspective. Always and only in PDF or Word. And again, look, there's no real strong view or opinion whether it is PDF or Word, but it definitely needs to be one of those two and not another template. Pick an ATS friendly template. So again, there are loads and loads and loads of CV building, resume building tools and platforms out there. We don't work with any in particular, but we recommend a couple of really good ones. But it's really important that you're working with an ATS friendly template. So i.e. the software and the technology is able to basically read your work experience, your qualifications, your hobbies, your interests, your experiences, and then obviously from a keyword perspective that you've got that piece in there. And clearly that the layout is simple. Okay, so there's some headlines in terms of ATS piece. The other really important piece is keywords, and it's very, very important. And again, this goes back to the Ingenio profile grid. It's really important that you know what you want to do from a job perspective, and that you've obviously got your prep and your preparatory work and your qualifications or your keywords lined up against that. But there's really, really important in an ATS is that an ATS will scan for two types of keywords. One is a job-related skill, and the second are action verbs. And again, there's a bit of a description there in terms of what they are. So you can see the job-related skills are the key things that you would do in your job. So I've used an example there of a data analyst or a business analyst. So some of the key things you'd be doing there would be data analysis, research, problem solving. And those keywords, those job-related keywords, would be absolutely defined in a job description, and that's what an ATS would be looking for. So if you've not written your CV with that in mind, then clearly it's not going to pick up on it, okay? And the second piece are action verbs, which basically show how you go about doing the job, how you go about, as you can see there, accomplishing or succeeding in your job. And it's really important, again, by having a look at some job descriptions, you'll start to basically build up what those action verbs are that are attached to your the type of job that you go and do. And you can see there, look, there's an example of created or maximized or solved. They would be really good action verbs, maybe that are attached to some kind of commercial or maybe sales or perhaps marketing type of role, or indeed a problem solving one. So look, that's a piece on keywords, right? So from an ATS, so why are we talking about this? This is where some people make some pretty fundamental major mistakes, and they don't even get through the gate of an application process. So the key things I want you to understand and really take away from today, firstly, from an ATS perspective, you need to know, number one, if an organization is using an ATS or not. You'll start to pick that up pretty quickly. Some of the ATS providers, you'll start to see organizations like Talent or Greenhouse or Bullhorn or ICIMS. These are the key kind of ATS platforms that organizations use. Okay, so the first thing is the organization I'm working with, do they use ATS or not? That's important. The second thing is you now have an appreciation in 11 minutes as to exactly what an ATS does. You need to make sure then that your CV is ready and right to be reviewed and surveyed and scanned by them. Look, this technology is becoming more commonly used. It's not going anywhere, so you need to adopt it and embrace it. And the really important piece that I want to try and make sure that you do understand, and I'm going to talk about this in the next slide, is tailor keywords for particular applications based on the job description that you're responding to. Okay, so they're the key takeaways specifically to ATS. Okay, the big mistakes, if I summarize the big mistakes that people make in the construction of, the creation of, and indeed the submission of CVs. So very quickly, if I run through these pieces, tailoring your CV or your resume for every single application is not a suggestion, it is absolutely mandatory. Okay, and the reason being is, the reason for this is exactly what I've just said there about ATS, or indeed about individuals who are basically paid to read and review and research CVs. They could be recruiters, they could be in-house talent people, they could be in-house HR, they could be hiring managers. But if you don't tailor your CV for every application, you're going to be wide of the mark. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing, one of my biggest personal pet hates on a CV is the line, references available on request. If you've got references, please, for God's sake, put them in. They are an unbelievably strong sales tool and bridging tool for you to put in on your CV or resume. Okay, so what that might be, the name of the individual and perhaps a LinkedIn connection to that individual. Show whoever it is, and be proud and confident, but show whoever it is that's reading your CV or resume exactly who it is that you've worked with previously, so that they can start to kind of plug gaps or fill in gaps. It's so unbelievably important. And look, either put the references in or don't write anything around references available on request. It is such a cop-out, and such a really, really, really strong kind of tip if you can take away on that one. Third mistake, I spent probably the last 2 sessions talking about outputs, outcomes, and metrics. People don't talk about them enough, and they're not specific. They are not connected or linked to business outcomes. And again, if you want to kind of find more details on that one, obviously, look, I'm happy to take a question on that one, or indeed look back at the last 2 sessions that we've done over the last 2 weeks. It's so unbelievably important. Serial applicants, really interesting one. Again, computer software and indeed people we start to trend really quickly people that are making many applications into organizations. And basically what ends up happening from a software perspective is there are criteria or thresholds basically set. And if it's the 3rd time that you've applied to a job in a particular organization within 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever the case may be, that gets flagged, and then you become known as a serial applicant, and then you're effectively negatively tagged. Whether that's because you maybe weren't fit for the role, or maybe you've not updated your CV, or you didn't have the right set of skills. So basically you immediately get tagged on that one. So it's really, really important that you think about every time you apply. It, like, what are the implications of you not getting this job on potentially you applying at a point in the future? Very, very important. And I think, I don't want to say it's probably, I don't want to say it's the biggest mistake that people make, but it is incredible. It is incredible how many people submit a CV through an application process. It's incredible how many people spend time tailoring their CV or their resume and don't do anything in terms of follow up and asking for, tell me where my application is, you know, or can you let me know what the situation or the process is, or the timescales, or do you have any particular piece, you know, particular pieces of feedback or advice based on it being positive or negative. So look, that is really, really important. Next week, we're going to be talking about who you actually send your CV to. So then you should be in a situation where you're never sending an application into a black hole. You should always know exactly where that's going to, either through the hiring manager, the hiring team, the HR team, or indeed, if it's a recruitment business, through a recruitment agency. Okay. So as we move in, I'm gonna get into Q&A, guys, and I'm also going to get into a quick poll. So stick with me for a couple of minutes, because I think you'll find this bit really useful. But just so you're very clear, we built Ingenio Learning. It's a course specifically built to help people like you get hired by tech, software, and SaaS organizations. And I had a conversation with someone last week who was saying, who was asking me, like, you know, what is the whole piece? What is the course about? So look, this is our landing page for the course. Okay, so you'll see here, there's a whole load of detail and information, which I'm not going to go through here. There is some details here in terms of what you can expect from the course. Okay, but this bit here is the syllabus. This is the curriculum. So these sections, and there's 4 sections in total, and there's 20 modules in total, were built specifically to help you go from a point of maybe lack of confidence, or maybe just pure exhaustion, or being fed up with, you know, the job search, or whatever the case may be. And it's to give you a really, really strong career coaching foundation. There you can see module 3 is the Ingenio profile grid that I mentioned earlier on. We then talk a little bit about the tech industry and what organizations actually want to hear and see, and what they're all about. We talk about your career and jobs. So again, if you think about that section on the profile grid, and then it's all around getting hired. That's what section 4 is all about. So that's what you would be buying if you were to buy How to Get Hired, which is obviously the course that we built. There's some stuff down here around some of our previous students, and I think, again, you can watch or listen into some of the videos that these guys have done for us, so that you can get a strong appreciation in terms of what you can expect at the end of after taking the course. So that's what Ingenio Learning is all about, and I hope that that kind of clarifies exactly what we are all about and exactly what you would get. From a financial or a commercial perspective, we've got a one-time discount for everyone who's tuned in today to watch the course. It's a pretty significant discount, and I genuinely believe €35 is a very, very small price to pay to go and land that dream job, regardless of your situation, regardless of you being straight out of uni, you know, recent graduate, someone who wants to pivot industry, or indeed someone who's maybe got a lot more experience and is looking for that kind of career coaching piece. So look, that's what it looks like from a pricing perspective. That offer expires this Friday, and there is space available for you to come into the course this week at that price. We'll be sending you some details straight after the course, straight after the session. We also offer a one-to-one session with either me, and that's live, one-on-one, no one else involved, to work on maybe something specific or particular that you have going on, or that you need or require. Maybe it's coming up to an interview and you want to do some prep. Maybe it's around reviewing your CV or your profile or your persona, or indeed, as I did with a chap last week, working on delivering messages or delivering with confidence in a physical interview or indeed remotely on Zoom. So I think that was a really interesting one.